The jungle was hot and wet. Captain Jake Morrison wiped sweat from his face as he pushed through the thick green plants. His boots sank into the soft ground with each step. Behind him, his 2 team members followed quietly. "Captain, are you sure we should go this way?" Lisa Parker asked. She was the team's medic. Her voice sounded worried. Ben Clark, their engineer, stopped to check his scanner. "The readings are strange here. Something big crashed not far from us." Jake nodded. "We need to check it out. It might be important." They had been exploring this planet for 2 weeks. The planet was called Zarian 7. No humans lived here. The trees were tall and strange colors. Purple and blue leaves hung down like curtains. The air smelled sweet but wrong. Jake heard a sound through the trees. It was like metal hitting metal. He held up his hand to stop his team. They all listened. Carefully. "There," Jake pointed ahead. "Something is definitely there." They walked toward the sound. Soon they could see smoke rising between the trees. Jake felt his heart beat faster. Someone might need help. The crashed ship was bigger than Jake expected. It was silver and smooth, not like human ships. The metal was bent and broken. One side was smashed against a large tree. Smoke came from several holes in the hull. "That's not one of ours," Ben said quietly. Lisa checked her medical scanner. "I'm getting life signs. Someone is alive in there." Jake looked at the strange writing on the side of the ship. He had seen those symbols before in his training. His stomach felt cold. "It's Veltari," he said. Ben and Lisa both stepped back. Everyone knew about the Veltari Empire. They were powerful aliens who ruled many star systems. They thought humans were nothing more than space pirates and thieves. "Captain, we should leave," Lisa said. "If they find us here, they'll think we caused the crash." Jake stared at the broken ship. The life signs on Lisa's scanner were getting weaker. "Someone is dying in there," he said. "It's not our problem," Ben replied. "The Veltari hate us. They've never helped humans. Why should we help them?" Jake walked closer to the ship. He could see a hole in the side big enough to crawl through. The metal edges were sharp and dangerous. "Because it's the right thing to do," Jake said. Lisa grabbed his arm. "Captain, please think about this. If the Veltari find us with their ship, they'll arrest us, or worse." Jake looked at his team. Lisa was scared. Ben was angry. But Jake could not ignore the weak life signs on the scanner. "Stay here and keep watch," he told them. "I'm going inside." Jake squeezed through the hole in the ship's hull. The inside was dark and filled with smoke. Strange lights blinked on and off. Everything was built for people taller than humans. He followed the sound of weak breathing. His flashlight cut through the darkness. The ship's bridge was at the front. That's where he found her. She was lying on the floor next to a broken control panel. Jake's light showed blue skin that seemed to glow slightly. Her hair was white like snow. She wore clothes that looked expensive and royal. Blood covered her face and arms. Her breathing was very shallow. Jake knelt down and checked her pulse. It was weak but steady. "Can you hear me?" he asked softly. Her eyes opened a little. They were purple like jewels. She looked at Jake with confusion and fear. She tried to speak but only made weak sounds. Jake could see she was badly hurt. There was a deep cut on her head. Her left arm looked broken. Without help, she would die soon. He called to his team. "Lisa, I need you in here now." Lisa crawled through the hole, carrying her medical bag. When she saw the alien woman, she gasped. "Jake, that's Princess Zara Lynn," she whispered. "I've seen her picture in intelligence reports. She's the daughter of the Veltari Emperor." Jake felt his blood turn cold. If they were caught with the princess, the Veltari would think they kidnapped her. "She's dying," Jake said. "We have to help her." Lisa knelt down and ran her scanner over the princess. "She has a head injury, broken arm, and internal bleeding. She needs surgery soon or she won't make it." The princess's eyes found Jake's face. She whispered something in her own language. Her voice was soft and musical, even when she was hurt. "What did she say?" Jake asked. Lisa shook her head. "I don't know Veltari language." Jake made his decision. He carefully lifted the princess in his arms. She was lighter than he expected. Her head fell against his shoulder. "We're taking her back to our camp," he said. Ben was waiting outside the ship. When he saw Jake carrying the alien princess, his face went white. "Captain, this is crazy," Ben said. "We should leave her here. Her people will come looking for her." "Her people might not find her in time," Jake replied. "We have medical supplies at camp. We can stabilize her there." The walk back to their camp took 2 hours. Jake carried the princess the whole way. Sometimes she would wake up and look at him with those purple eyes. He would speak softly to her, even though she couldn't understand English. "It's okay," he would say. "You're safe now. We're going to help you." Her skin felt cold against his arms. He could smell something like flowers in her hair. Despite her injuries, she was beautiful in a way that was completely alien. At their camp, Lisa worked for hours to save the princess. She cleaned the wounds and bandaged the broken arm. Jake helped by holding the princess steady while Lisa worked. The princess drifted in and out of consciousness. When she was awake, her eyes always found Jake. There was something in her look that made him feel strange. Not afraid, but different somehow. "She keeps looking at you," Lisa noticed. Jake nodded. "Maybe she knows I'm the one who found her." That night, Jake sat next to the princess while she slept. Her breathing was stronger now, but she still looked pale. He put his jacket over her to keep her warm. Lisa and Ben slept on the other side of the camp. They thought Jake was being foolish, but they didn't argue anymore. The princess opened her eyes around midnight. She saw Jake watching over her and tried to sit up. "Easy," Jake said gently. He helped her lie back down. "You're hurt. You need to rest." She said something in Veltari. Her voice was weak, but she sounded grateful. Jake wished he could understand her words. Instead, he just nodded and smiled. "You're welcome," he said, hoping she understood his meaning. She reached out with her good hand and touched his arm. Her fingers were long and delicate. For a moment, they just looked at each other in the firelight. Then her eyes closed, and she fell back asleep. Jake stayed awake all night, watching over the alien princess who had crashed into his life. 3 years had passed since that day in the jungle. Commander Jake Morrison stood in front of a large window on Harmony Point Space Station. He watched alien ships arrive from across the galaxy. Each ship was different. Some were long and thin, like needles. Others were round like balls. All of them were much bigger than human ships. "Nervous?" Ambassador Kate Williams asked as she walked up beside him. Jake straightened his dress uniform. "A little. This is humanity's first real chance to join the galactic community." Kate nodded. She was a smart woman with gray hair and kind eyes. She had spent years preparing for this moment. "The Veltari delegation arrived this morning," she said. "Princess Zara Lynn is leading their team." Jake felt something strange when he heard that name. He couldn't remember where he had heard it before. "What do we know about her?" he asked. "She's the Emperor's daughter, very intelligent. The Veltari respect her opinions, but she's not known to be friendly toward humans." Ryan Hayes joined them at the window. He was head of security for the human delegation. His job was to keep everyone safe. "The princess has a reputation," Ryan said. "She thinks humans are too aggressive, too violent. She's spoken against us in other meetings." Jake watched a silver ship dock with the station. It was beautiful and elegant, nothing like the rough human ships. "That's her ship," Kate said. "The Royal Star." Inside the ship, Princess Zara Lynn was getting ready for the summit. She wore formal robes that sparkled with jewels. Her white hair was arranged in an elaborate style. Her blue skin seemed to glow in the soft light. "Princess, the human delegation has already arrived," said Counselor Velnara. She was the princess's advisor and oldest friend. "I know," the princess replied. Her voice was calm but cold. "I've read their files. Typical human arrogance. They think they deserve a place among civilized species." Velnara studied her friend's face. "You seem distracted today. Is something wrong?" The princess touched a small scar on her forehead. It was barely visible, but she always remembered it was there. "I'm fine," she said. "Let's go meet these humans." The main conference room was huge. Representatives from 12 different species sat around a circular table. The humans sat together on one side. Jake could see the Veltari delegation across the room. Princess Zara Lynn entered the room like royalty. She was tall and graceful. Her purple eyes looked at each delegation as she passed. When her gaze reached the humans, it lingered for a moment longer. Jake found himself staring at her. There was something familiar about her face, but he couldn't place it. "Welcome, everyone," said the conference moderator. He was from a neutral species called the Zephyrians. "This summit will determine humanity's role in our galactic alliance." The first day was difficult. Many species questioned human intentions. They thought humans were too warlike to be trusted. "Your species has a history of violence," said the representative from the Aquarian Collective. "You fight wars among yourselves. How can we trust you with other species?" Ambassador Williams answered calmly. "Humans have learned from our mistakes. We seek peace and cooperation now." Princess Zara Lynn spoke next. Her voice was musical, but firm. "Peace is easy to promise," she said, looking directly at Jake for some reason. "But humans have shown no evidence of true compassion. They take what they want and leave destruction behind." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. He wanted to argue, but Kate touched his arm to keep him quiet. "With respect, Princess," Jake said anyway. "You judge us without knowing us." Their eyes met across the room. For a moment, the princess looked surprised. Something flickered in her purple eyes, but it passed quickly. "I know enough," she replied. The first day ended with little progress. The human delegation met in their private rooms to discuss strategy. "She's the key," Kate said. "If we can convince Princess Zara Lynn to support us, others will follow." "She seems to have made up her mind already," Ryan replied. "She doesn't, like humans." Jake sat quietly, thinking. There was something about the princess that bothered him. Not her words, but something else, something he couldn't identify. That evening, there was a formal dinner for all delegates. The food was from many different worlds. Jake tried to be polite, but his mind kept wandering to the princess. She sat at the head table with other important delegates. She spoke little during dinner, but Jake noticed she kept glancing toward the human table. After dinner, there was a reception. Delegates moved around the room, talking in small groups. Jake found himself near a large window that looked out at the stars. "The view is beautiful," said a musical voice behind him. Jake turned and saw Princess Zara Lynn standing a few feet away. Up close, he could see she was even more beautiful than from across the room. Her skin had a soft glow that was mesmerizing. "Yes, it is," Jake replied. "I never get tired of looking at the stars." "Do you travel in space often, Commander Morrison?" Jake was surprised she knew his name. "When my duties require it. I've been to several planets." Something passed across her face when he said this. She took a small step closer. "And do you help people on these planets?" she asked. Her voice was softer now, almost gentle. "When I can," Jake replied honestly. "It's the right thing to do." The princess stared at him for a long moment. Her purple eyes seemed to be searching his face for something. "The right thing to do," she repeated quietly. "Even when it's dangerous?" "Especially then," Jake said. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Jake could smell something like flowers around her. It seemed familiar, but he couldn't remember where. He had smelled it before. "Princess?" Counselor Velnara appeared at her side. "The Aquarian ambassador wishes to speak with you." The princess blinked as if waking from a dream. "Of course, excuse me, Commander Morrison." She walked away, but Jake noticed she looked back at him once before disappearing into the crowd. The next morning brought more difficult negotiations. The princess seemed different somehow. She still opposed human membership, but her arguments were less harsh than before. "Perhaps humans do have some admirable qualities," she admitted during one discussion. "But good intentions are not enough. We need proof of their character." Jake watched her carefully during these talks. Sometimes he caught her looking at him with an expression he couldn't read. It wasn't anger or dislike. It was something else. Something almost like recognition. During a break in the talks, Jake walked through the station's corridors to clear his head. He passed through a garden area filled with plants from different worlds. Commander Morrison? Jake turned to see the princess standing alone among the alien flowers. She had changed from her formal robes into simpler clothes. Princess, Jake said with a small bow. Are you enjoying the garden? I needed some air, she replied. The negotiations are challenging. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Jake noticed the princess kept looking at him with that strange expression. May I ask you something? She said finally. Of course. Have we met before? Not at this summit, but somewhere else? Jake thought about it. I don't think so. I would remember meeting someone like you. Something sad passed across her face. Yes, I suppose you would. She turned to leave, then stopped. Commander, do you believe people can change their minds about others? Yes, Jake said without hesitation. Sometimes all it takes is seeing them in a different light. The princess smiled for the first time since he had met her. It transformed her face completely. Thank you, she said softly. That gives me hope. As she walked away, Jake caught that flower scent again. This time it triggered a memory that made his heart race. But before he could grasp it fully, the memory slipped away like smoke. He stood alone in the garden, wondering why the alien princess seemed so familiar, and why his heart beat faster every time she looked at him with those purple eyes. The third day of the summit was the most important. Today, the delegates would vote on humanity's membership in the Galactic Alliance. Jake felt nervous as he put on his dress uniform. This was their last chance to prove humans belonged among the stars. Princess Zara Lynn woke up in her quarters with a strange feeling in her chest. She had dreamed of purple trees and smoke again. The same dream that had haunted her for 3 years. In the dream, gentle hands bandaged her wounds while a kind voice spoke words she couldn't understand. She touched the small scar on her forehead. The doctors had healed it well, but she could still feel it. A reminder of the day someone saved her life. Princess, are you ready? Velnara asked as she entered the room. Almost, Zara Lynn replied. She was choosing between 2 sets of formal jewelry. One was made of traditional Veltari crystals. The other was simpler, with a small pendant that held special meaning. The pendant was the only thing she had kept from that terrible day on Zirion 7. She had found it in the pocket of a human jacket someone had wrapped around her. A simple piece of metal with Earth's symbol on it. She never told anyone she had it. Wear the crystals, Velnara suggested. They show your royal status. But Zara Lynn picked up the simple pendant instead. No. Today I want to wear something different. The morning session was tense. Each species presented their final arguments about human membership. Some supported humanity. Others remained against it. Humans are young and reckless, said the crystalline delegate. They need more time to mature as a species. Ambassador Williams stood to respond. We may be young, but we learn quickly. We've already shown we can work with others peacefully, Jake. Watched Princess Zara Lynn during these speeches. She sat very still, her purple eyes focused on the table in front of her. Sometimes her hand moved to touch the pendant she wore around her neck. When it was time for the Veltari to speak, the princess rose gracefully. Every eye in the room focused on her. Her words would carry great weight with the other delegates. The Veltari Empire has watched humanity for many years, she began. Her voice was clear and strong. We have seen their wars and their violence. We have reasons to be cautious. Jake felt his heart sink. It sounded like she would speak against them. However, the princess continued, we have also seen something else. We have seen humans show kindness to strangers. We have seen them risk their lives for people they don't even know. Jake looked up in surprise. This wasn't what he expected her to say. The princess's eyes found his across the room. Some humans understand what it means to help others, even when it's dangerous. Even when there's no reward for doing so. Their gazes locked for a moment. Jake felt something stir in his memory, but he still couldn't grasp what it was. The Veltari Empire will consider our vote carefully. The princess concluded. We believe actions speak louder than words. During the lunch break, delegates gathered in small groups throughout the station. Jake walked through the main corridor thinking about the princess's speech. It had sounded almost supportive. He was passing through the central plaza when he saw her. Princess Zara Lynn stood near a fountain speaking quietly with two other delegates. Jake decided to walk past and maybe catch her attention. As he approached, something unexpected happened. A maintenance worker bumped into Jake, spilling cleaning fluid on his uniform. The strong chemical smell filled the air around them. Princess Zara Lynn was in the middle of speaking when the scent reached her. She stopped talking mid-sentence. Her purple eyes went wide with shock, but it wasn't the chemical smell that stopped her. Underneath it, her enhanced Veltari senses caught something else, something that made her blood turn cold and her heart race. It was him, the scent she had been searching for across 3 years and 1,000 worlds. Jake Morrison smelled exactly like the human who had saved her life. The princess stood frozen like a statue. The other delegates kept talking, but their voices sounded far away. All she could hear was her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. Memories crashed over her like a wave, strong arms lifting her from the wreckage, gentle hands cleaning her wounds, a soft voice speaking words of comfort in a language she didn't know, the smell of human skin and fabric that had surrounded her during the longest 3 days of her life. Princess? One of the delegates asked. Are you all right? Zara Lynn blinked and looked around. Jake was walking away, unaware of what had just happened. She watched his familiar shoulders and the way he moved. How had she not recognized him before? Excuse me, she said quickly. I just remembered something important. She hurried away, leaving the confused delegates behind. She needed to be alone to think. In her quarters, Princess Zara Lynn sat on her bed with shaking hands. She pulled out a small box from her luggage. Inside was the human jacket she had kept all these years. She brought it to her nose and breathed in. The scent was faint after so long, but it was there. The same scent she had just detected from Commander Jake Morrison. It's him, she whispered to herself. He's the one who saved me. All the pieces fell into place now. Why he seemed familiar. Why his words about helping others had touched her so deeply. Why her dreams always featured a faceless human with kind hands and a gentle voice. Jake Morrison was her mysterious rescuer. But this knowledge filled her with confusion instead of joy. For 3 years, she had wanted to find the human who saved her. She had imagined thanking him and honoring the debt she owed, but she had never imagined he would be part of a political summit where she held his people's fate in her hands. Princess? Velnara's voice came from outside her door. May I come in? Just a moment, Zara Lynn called back. She quickly put the jacket away and tried to compose herself. Velnara entered and immediately noticed something was wrong. What's happened? You left the plaza very suddenly. I'm fine, the princess lied. Just tired from the negotiations. Velnara studied her friend's face carefully. This is about the humans, isn't it? You've been acting strange since they arrived. Zara Lynn turned away. She couldn't tell Velnara the truth. Not yet. Her advisor would never understand why she had kept the jacket or why this discovery mattered so much. The vote is tomorrow, Velnara continued. The Emperor expects us to oppose human membership. You know his feelings about their species. I know, the princess said quietly, but you're having doubts. Zara Lynn looked out the window at the stars. What if we're wrong about them? What if some humans are different than we think? 1 or 2 good humans don't change the nature of their whole species. Velnara replied firmly. You can't let emotions cloud your judgment. But it was too late for that. Zara Lynn's emotions were already involved. The debt she owed to Jake Morrison was sacred in Veltari culture. She could not ignore it. That evening, Jake couldn't concentrate on the strategy meetings. Something about his encounter with Princess Zara Lynn kept bothering him. The way she had looked at him in the plaza was burned into his memory. She seemed shocked about something, Kate observed. Did you say anything to upset her? I didn't even speak to her, Jake replied. She just froze when she looked at me. Ryan frowned. That's concerning. Maybe she recognizes you from somewhere. Where would I have met a Veltari princess? Jake asked. I've never been in their territory. But even as he said it, Jake felt that nagging sensation in the back of his mind, like a word on the tip of his tongue that wouldn't come out. Late that night, Princess Zara Lynn couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Jake Morrison and the impossible situation she found herself in. Her duty to her empire said one thing, her personal debt said another. She made a decision that would change everything. Tomorrow, she would request a private meeting with Commander Morrison. She would tell him the truth about who she was and what he had done for her 3 years ago. Then she would have to choose between her loyalty to her people and her honor as a Veltari. Either way, her life would never be the same. The next morning would bring the vote that decided humanity's future among the stars. But first, it would bring a conversation that had been 3 years in the making. As Jake lay in his bed that night, he had no idea that the alien princess down the hall owed him her life. He had no idea that his simple act of kindness in a jungle long ago was about to reshape the galaxy. All he knew was that tomorrow would determine everything his species had worked for. And somehow, the fate of humanity rested in the purple eyes of a princess who looked at him like she knew all his secrets. Jake woke up early on the final day of the summit. His stomach felt tight with worry. Today, the delegates would vote on humanity's future in the galaxy. He dressed carefully and tried to eat breakfast, but the food tasted like nothing. A message appeared on his personal communicator at 800 hours. It was from Princess Zara Lynn herself. Commander Morrison, I request a private meeting before today's session. Please come to conference room 7 at 0900 hours. Come alone. This concerns the Xerion system territories. Jake stared at the message. Why would the princess want to discuss Xerion system? That was where he had been 3 years ago, exploring planets for possible human colonies. He showed the message to Ambassador Williams. It could be a trap, she said with concern. Why does she want you alone? I don't know, Jake replied, but we can't ignore a request from their chief delegate. Ryan Hayes disagreed. I don't like it, let me come with you as security. She specifically said alone, Jake pointed out. If we want any chance at their support, I need to respect her wishes. At exactly 0900 hours, Jake entered conference room 7. It was a small private room with just a table and 2 chairs. Princess Zara Lynn was already there, standing by the window. She had changed from her formal robes into simpler clothes. Thank you for coming, Commander, she said without turning around. Of course, Princess. You mentioned the Xerion system. She finally turned to face him. Her purple eyes looked different today. They were filled with emotion he couldn't identify. Please, sit down, she said softly. Jake took the chair across from her. She seemed nervous, which was strange for someone usually so composed. What I'm about to tell you may be hard to believe, she began. 3 years ago, I was in the Xerion system on a diplomatic mission. My ship crashed on the 7th planet. Jake felt his blood turn cold. Xerion 7. He remembered that planet very well. The princess continued. I was badly injured. Without help, I would have died alone in that jungle. Suddenly, Jake's mind filled with images. A crashed silver ship. A beautiful alien woman with blue skin and white hair. Purple eyes looking at him with trust and gratitude. It was you, he whispered. Princess Zara Lynn nodded. You saved my life, Jake Morrison. You and your team found me in the wreckage. You carried me to safety and cared for my wounds. Jake's hands shook as the full memory came flooding back. I never knew who you were. Your face was so badly injured, and it was dark in the ship. But I knew your scent, she said quietly. Veltari have much stronger senses than humans. Your smell was imprinted in my memory during those 3 days you cared for me. Jake remembered now. The way she had looked at him with those purple eyes. How she had reached out to touch his arm by the firelight. The flower scent in her white hair. Why didn't you tell me before? He asked. I didn't recognize you until yesterday, she admitted. When that cleaning fluid spilled near you, I caught your true scent underneath it. That's when I knew. They sat in silence for a moment. Jake was overwhelmed by the discovery. The alien princess he had been negotiating with for 3 days was the same person he had rescued in the jungle. I've been searching for you for 3 years, she said. I wanted to thank you properly. In Veltari culture, a life debt is sacred. You risked everything to save a stranger. I did what anyone would do, Jake replied. No, she said firmly. Your own people told you to leave me there. They said the Veltari would blame you for my injuries. But you chose to help me anyway. Jake remembered Ben and Lisa arguing with him to abandon the princess. They had been afraid of what would happen if they were caught with Veltari royalty. I couldn't leave you to die, he said simply. Princess Zaralin's eyes filled with tears. You gave me your jacket when I was cold. You shared your food and water. You spoke to me gently when I was afraid, even though I couldn't understand your words. The memories were clear now. Jake remembered sitting by her side all night, making sure she was safe. He remembered the way she had looked at him with complete trust. I remember everything now, he said. You tried to thank me in your language, but I didn't understand. I said your kindness would never be forgotten, she translated. I meant it. Jake felt his heart racing. This changes everything, doesn't it? The princess nodded slowly. Yes, it does. I owe you a debt that can never be repaid. But I also have duties to my empire. What do you mean? She stood up and walked to the window again. My father, the emperor, expects me to vote against human membership. He believes your species is too violent and unpredictable. Jake felt hope and despair fighting in his chest. But you know that's not true. You've seen what humans can be at our best. I know, she said. But if I support humanity publicly, I'll need to explain why I changed my position. That means revealing what happened on Zerion 7. Would that be so bad? Princess Zaralin turned back to him. It would change everything between our peoples. The Veltari would know that one of their royal family owes her life to a human. It would force them to see your species differently. Jake understood now. This wasn't just about one vote. It was about changing the relationship between 2 entire civilizations. What will you do? He asked. Before she could answer, the door chimed. Someone was outside. Princess. It was Velnara's voice. The morning session begins in 10 minutes. Just a moment, the princess called back. She looked at Jake with an expression full of conflict. I need to make a choice, she said quietly. Honor my debt to you, or obey my father's wishes. I won't ask you to choose me over your family, Jake said. I saved you because it was the right thing to do, not because I wanted something in return. Her eyes widened with surprise. Even now, when humanity's future depends on my vote, you would release me from my debt? Jake stood up and faced her. A debt given freely isn't really a debt at all. It's just one person helping another. For a moment, Princess Zaralin just stared at him. Then she did something that surprised them both. She stepped forward and placed her hand over his heart. This is why you're different, she said softly. This is why I was wrong about your species. The door chimed again, more urgently this time. Princess, we must go, Velnara called. Jake looked into those purple eyes that had haunted his dreams for 3 years without him knowing why. Whatever you decide, he said, I want you to know something. Those 3 days in the jungle, they changed. Me too. You made me believe that understanding between species was possible. The princess smiled through her tears. Then we saved each other, didn't we? She reached into her pocket and pulled out something that made Jake's heart stop. It was a small piece of metal with Earth's symbol on it. a button from his old uniform jacket. "I kept this," she said, pressing it into his hand. "It reminded me that somewhere in the galaxy there was at least one human with a good heart." Jake closed his fingers around the button. "I have something of yours, too." He reached into his own pocket and pulled out a small medical scanner. "You dropped this when I first found you. I've carried it ever since." Now it was her turn to look shocked. "You kept it all this time?" "I didn't know why," Jake admitted. "I just felt like it was important." The door chimed one final time. "Princess Zara Lynn," Velnara's voice was urgent now. "The delegates are waiting." The princess took a deep breath and straightened her shoulders. "I have to go now. But Jake, Morrison, know this, whatever happens today, I will never forget what you did for me." She walked toward the door, then paused and looked back at him. "The vote will be close," she said. "Every delegate's decision matters." Then she was gone, leaving Jake alone with his racing heart and the weight of 3 years of hidden truth. In a few hours, he would know if humanity had a future among the stars. But right now, all he could think about was the alien princess who had trusted him with her life and who now held his people's future in her hands. The galaxy had suddenly become a much smaller, much more complicated place. Jake returned to the human delegation's meeting room with his mind spinning. Ambassador Williams and Ryan Hayes were waiting for him with worried expressions. "How did it go?" Kate asked immediately. Jake sat down heavily in his chair. He couldn't tell them the whole truth. Not yet. She wanted to discuss some territorial issues near Zarian 7. Nothing concrete. "Did she give any hint about how the Veltari will vote?" Ryan pressed. "No," Jake said honestly, "but I think she's considering all options." Meanwhile, in the Veltari delegation's quarters, Princess Zara Lynn faced her own difficult conversation. "You were gone a long time," Velnara observed. "What did the human commander want?" "Actually, I called the meeting," the princess replied. She was staring out the window, watching human ships in the distance. "Why? What could you possibly have to discuss privately with him?" Princess Zara Lynn made a decision that would change her life forever. "Velnara, I'm going to tell you something that I've never told anyone. 3 years ago, on Zarion 7, a human saved my life." Velnara's face went pale. "What are you talking about?" "My ship crashed. I was dying. A human exploration team found me and risked everything to help me survive. They carried me to safety, treated my wounds, and made sure I lived." "That's impossible," Velnara whispered. "You never mentioned humans when you returned from that mission." "Because I didn't know they were human at the time. I was barely conscious, but I never forgot the kindness they showed me." Velnara sat down slowly. "And Commander Morrison? He's the one who saved me." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, Velnara found her voice. "Princess, you know what this means. If you reveal this publicly, it will change everything between our peoples." "I know," Zara Lynn said quietly. "Your father will be furious. The Empire has built its policies on the belief that humans are violent and selfish. Then perhaps our policies are wrong." Velnara looked shocked. "You can't be serious. One good human doesn't change the nature of their entire species." Princess Zara Lynn turned to face her advisor. "But what if it's not just one human? What if we've been wrong about all of them?" The final session of the summit began at 1400 hours. The great conference room was filled with tension. Every delegate knew this vote would reshape the galaxy's future. Jake sat with the human delegation, trying to appear calm. His hand kept moving. To the pocket where he carried the uniform button, Princess Zara Lynn had returned to him. The princess entered the room with perfect royal composure. She took her seat with the Veltari delegation and didn't look toward the humans. But Jake noticed her hand touching the pendant at her throat, the one with the symbol from his old jacket. "We will now begin the final vote," announced the Zephyrian moderator. "Each delegation will state their position on human membership in the Galactic Alliance." One by one, the species voted. Some supported humanity, others opposed. The vote was closer than anyone had expected. When they reached the Veltari delegation, the count was tied. Princess Zara Lynn stood slowly, every eye in the room focused on her. Her next words would decide everything. The Veltari Empire has long held reservations about humanity, she began. Her voice was steady and clear. We have seen their wars and their conflicts. We have questioned their ability to live peacefully with other species. Jake's heart sank. It sounded like she was going to vote against them. However, the princess continued. Recent events have given us new information to consider. She paused and looked directly at Jake. For a moment, time seemed to stop. 3 years ago, I was injured in a ship crash on Xerion 7. I was dying alone in an alien jungle. My rescue came from an unexpected source. Whispers began around the room. This wasn't what anyone had expected her to say. A human exploration. Team found me. Their leader could have left me to die. His own people advised him to do so, fearing what might happen if they were caught with Veltari royalty. The whispers grew louder. Jake felt his face burning as delegates began to look at him. But this human chose compassion over fear. He carried me to safety, treated my wounds, and kept me alive for 3 days until help could arrive. He asked for nothing in return. Princess Zara Lynn's voice grew stronger as she continued. This human's name is Commander Jake Morrison. He is sitting in this room today representing his species with honor. Now everyone was staring at Jake. He felt like he might faint from the attention. In Veltari culture, a life debt is sacred, the princess declared. But more than that, this act of kindness opened my eyes to what humanity can be at their best. She turned to address the entire assembly. If we judge humans only by their worst moments, we are no better than those who would judge us by ours. Commander Morrison showed me that humans are capable of great compassion, great courage, and great honor. The room was completely silent now. Therefore, the Veltari Empire votes in favor of human membership in the Galactic Alliance. We believe humanity deserves a chance to prove themselves among the stars. The silence broke into chaos. Delegates from multiple species began talking at once. Some seemed shocked, others appeared pleased. The crystalline delegate looked angry. Jake couldn't believe what had just happened. The alien princess had risked everything. Her relationship with her father, her position in the Empire, her people's traditions, to support humanity. The moderator called for order. With the Veltari vote, humans are accepted into the Galactic Alliance by a margin of 1 vote. Ambassador Williams grabbed Jake's arm, tears in her eyes. We did it, she whispered. We're in. But Jake wasn't looking at Kate. He was looking at Princess Zara Lynn, who was being surrounded by angry Veltari advisors. Velnara looked furious. Other delegates from their empire seemed shocked by their princess's revelation. After the session ended, Jake found himself alone in the corridor outside the conference room. He needed time to process what had happened. Commander Morrison? He turned to see Princess Zara Lynn approaching. She looked tired, but also somehow lighter, as if a great weight had been lifted from her shoulders. Princess, he said formally, thank you. You risked everything for us. I did what was right, she replied, just like you did 3 years ago. They stood facing each other in the empty hallway. What will happen now? Jake asked. With your father, with your empire, she smiled sadly. There will be consequences. My father is already sending messages demanding explanations, but the vote was public. The other species heard my words. The Veltari cannot simply ignore what I said. I'm sorry I caused you trouble. You saved my life, Jake Morrison. Everything else is just politics. Jake realized this might be the last time they spoke privately. Soon they would return to their respective worlds, to duties and responsibilities that might keep them apart forever. Will I see you again? He asked. The galaxy is smaller than you think, she said with a mysterious smile. Our peoples are allies now. I suspect our paths will cross again. She reached out and touched his hand briefly. Take care of yourself, Jake Morrison. The universe is a better place with humans like you in it. Then she was gone. walking back toward her delegation with the same royal grace she had always possessed. 6 months later, Jake stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, humanity's first ship built with alien technology. They were heading to the Veltari home system for the signing of a formal alliance treaty. Captain Morrison, his communications officer, called out, "We're receiving a message from the Veltari flagship." Jake smiled at his new rank. His actions at the summit had earned him a promotion in command of his own ship. "On screen," he ordered. Princess Zara Lynn's face appeared on the view screen. She wore the formal robes of a Veltari diplomat, but she was smiling. "Welcome to Veltari space, Captain Morrison," she said. "I look forward to working with humanity's newest ambassador." Jake straightened his uniform. "The honor is ours, Princess. We're grateful for this opportunity." "The gratitude is mutual," she replied. "After all, you taught us that sometimes the greatest strength comes from showing kindness to strangers." As their ships flew together toward the Veltari homeworld, Jake thought about how much had changed. A simple act of compassion in a jungle had grown into something that changed the galaxy. Humanity now had allies among the stars. Trade agreements were being signed. Knowledge was being shared. Young humans were learning alongside alien students in schools across the galaxy. And somewhere, in Veltari space, there was a princess who still kept a human jacket in her quarters and still believed that one person's kindness could change the universe. Jake touched the uniform button in his pocket, his reminder that good deeds have a way of coming back to you when you least expect it. The stars had never looked brighter. 3 years after a chance meeting in an alien jungle, humanity had found its place among the civilizations of the galaxy. And it had all started with one human who chose to do the right thing, even when no one was watching. The galaxy was indeed smaller than anyone had thought, and it was filled with infinite possibilities for those brave enough to show compassion to strangers under foreign stars.